Is Aaron Judge no longer the leader in the clubhouse for the AL MVP? The Mets go on a crazy losing streak. But is it a bad thing? Fernando Tatis files a lawsuit, and we're doing the San Diego Padres, which, of course, we know is German for whale's vagina. We're doing their Mount Rushmore this week. All that and David Aardsma right now on Closers. What is going on, everybody? Another edition of Closers. I'm James DeGreek, and with me, as always, Mr. 69, David Aardsma. DA, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good. Hosting the show here from a golf course, trying to mix it up a little bit and making James jealous.
Yeah, I am super jealous because, as you know, I am a golf lover, not good golfer, but I love the game, and I loved playing in Arizona when I was out there visiting you. Which golf course are you at? Are you at the one that we played at?
No, totally different golf course. Dove Valley Golf Course. My DZ on his 15th birthday. It's his 15th birthday today. He is doing a golf academy, so he was out here golfing. I gotta take him up here, so here I am.
DZ, 15 years old. That 15. Is crazy. That
he went out and got
wild.
He didn't know what he wanted for his birthday. We thought he wanted like some sunglasses and stuff. So we took him to the sunglass hut and let us say, hey, go for it. Go crazy. Pick out a pair that you want. And he went and was trying to bunch on. He was kind of liking a pair of Ray-Bans. And so we're cool. We're digging it. And then he went and tried. They had the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
Yeah.
But they were just the clear ones. And the lady's like, no, like we have a bunch of different styles of those. And so they had some matte black, shades, and he tried them on. He fell in love with them. So that's what we ended up getting. A lot better price than I ever thought they would be.
I was looking at them the other day. They're intriguing. I was considering getting them, but what am I going to do? I'm an old man. I'm not going to be, streaming all the time. Anyway, happy birthday to our boy DZ. It is crazy to think that your son is 15 years old. I am truly getting old, as are you.
Yes.
It's wild, man. All right, let's talk a little baseball. Right now, we have an intriguing thing going on where Aaron Judge might not actually be the leader in the clubhouse for the AL MVP. Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners, my second favorite team in baseball, is crushing it right now, having an amazing season. David, tell me about Cal Raleigh.
The big dumper. I love it. He is having an incredible season. Anytime a catcher is having a huge year for a team, they're going to get MVP talk. Right now, he has a 4.3 WAR. He has 32 home runs, leading Major League Baseball in home runs, and that's so incredible. Leading Major League Baseball in RBIs, I believe, as well at 69, if that's what it is currently. But having a great year, hitting 280 for the Seattle Mariners. But really, what it is just having a catcher on any team going out there and doing what he's doing is incredible. And he seems to be getting better and better and better every single year. And that's a great part for the dumper.
We talk about.
I love it.
I know you love that name. So do I. And I know Carla loves that name. Hi, Carla. Yeah, it's actually crazy when you think about the fact that he got his extension in the offseason and he came out and he's just chilling and killing it. And he's doing it in that stadium. And we've talked a lot about the inability for players to do it in Seattle at that stadium. We've talked about Julio forever, whose numbers continue to go down. But Cal Raleigh, stadium or not, if it was Yellowstone, he'd be hitting him out right now.
Yes, he's hitting out of anywhere, like I said, leading Major League Baseball. And that's where the conversation gets really interesting. We're talking about Aaron Judge and everything he does every year. But he is putting up more home run numbers in a much more difficult ballpark to hit home runs at. Yeah, let's pull up that graphic. That's a great graphic.
Yeah, so we have the graphic, the versus graphic of the Cal Raleigh versus Aaron Judge. And you can see that Aaron Judge right now has a higher WAR. He's played more games, and that doesn't shock anybody. What shocks me, though, is the fact that Cal Raleigh has actually played 77 games as a catcher and not needing that extra rest, and he's caught up to Aaron Judge. He's only 2 games behind. That, to me, is crazy. Of course, this was going into yesterday's game, so this is going to be a little skewed. But 32 home runs to 28. He's beating them there. 69 RBIs to 62, beating him there. 9 stolen bases from a catcher. When does that ever happen? It's absolutely insane. But you look at the rest of the numbers, Aaron Judge is still ahead. Does the difference in position catapult Cal Raleigh over Aaron Judge, or is the fact that Aaron Judge's team is in first place and Cal Raleigh's not? Who's got the edge right now?
So Aaron Judge definitely has the edge, and where the edge really comes into play is batting average, OPS plus, where he has the edge. You know, the impact that Aaron Judge is having across the league and historically, to me, you're also the MVP until somebody outplays you every single day. He's hitting almost 80 points higher. 80 points higher. And so when you're looking at like total bases and on base and every one of those kind of metrics, he's having more of an impact on offense. He just is. There's no way about it. The catcher makes it interesting. And being the catcher on your team absolutely adds a whole nother dynamic to it. But it's at 80 points. So I think it evens it out. And then when your team is in first place, and if you took Aaron Judge off of that team and took Cal Raleigh off the team, I think it affects the Mariners a little less than it does affect the Yankees. I don't think they're in first place. I still think the Mariners are. I just think it affects the Yankees more when Aaron Judge is in that, because we've seen it. We haven't seen when Cal Raleigh's not in that lineup. We've seen when Aaron Judge is not in that lineup, and it is a completely different Yankees team every single time he's not on that field. And then, like I said, until he is outpaced, he is the MVP.
See, I'm not so sure about that. I think there has a lot more to do with the position of the teams in the standings. If the Seattle Mariners were in first place, you could say there's no chance in hell that the Mariners would be there without Cal Raleigh. You could probably say the same thing for Aaron Judge, but I think you have that hangover effect when there's an MVP. You know, Aaron Judge is always in the conversation. The people like seeing something different. The voters like voting for someone different. So if Cal Raleigh was in first place, I think he would be by far the clear choice for MVP. But right now, I can't make a case for Cal Raleigh, even though it's close. And because of the defensive disparity between the two, it's close. But I can't make a case for a guy whose team is in second place and he's trailing in all those stats from Aaron Judge. I just can't do it.
From a Vegas standpoint, Aaron Judge is a minus 952 and Cal Raleigh is a plus 480. So what I would love to have seen, though, is over the weeks of the season, how Cal Raleigh has been popping up this chart, right, and been moving up. And you never know, too. There might be an outsider in a Tariq Skubal that steps up. DeGrom, the way DeGrom has been pitching as of late, taking a no-hitter into the 8th inning, a perfect game into the 7th inning last night. And Jose Ramirez, you never want to take on Jose Ramirez and discount him. I just don't know if anybody's going to be able to catch Judge if he keeps hitting the way he is. The thing is, he's been hitting in the 260s, 280s as of late. In his last 15 games, he has not been hitting the ball the same. That definitely might start affecting Judge if his average starts getting down to the 320s, which I think it'll end up being around 320 at the end of the year. And if Cal Raleigh stays in this position, if the Mariners make a little bit more run, it's going to make it very, very tight by the end of the year.
You know, the only one in the country who's happy about this AL MVP debate?
I don't think you are.
Dave Sims. He's the only guy.
He's loving this.
He probably loves Cal Raleigh because from everything that I've heard, Cal is a good dude. So, you know, Dave loves everybody and he's great. And now he's in New York and he gets to see Aaron Judge on a daily basis. That guy can't lose.
Here you go. Let's say this. If Aaron Judge is at the end of the year hitting 320 and he's got 50 home runs, which he's going to have around 50 home runs.
Yeah, no.
Cal Raleigh's hitting 280 with around 50 home runs. Let's say their stats are pretty similar. Judge is going to have him on OPS plus a little bit. He's going to have him on slugging. There's going to be a little bit of a disparity there, a little bit. Does that make it a lot tighter for you?
Depends what's the standings of the teams.
Let's say they both make the playoffs.
Forget about the playoffs. I want to see one of them win the division.
Okay.
The division will mean something to me because you can be The wild card, because there's so many wild cards now, making the playoffs isn't that over the top thing that it was, back in the day with MVP voting. Now that third place team can be a 500 team, and being a 500 team isn't all that difficult in baseball. So, but winning the division, especially in the AL West and in the AL East, is pretty important. So the division means a lot more to me. But I do think that if all things are equal, it's a Cal Raleigh win. Because of what I said before, I think the voters desperately want to highlight someone who's not in that New York area if they can.
It's going to make it really interesting. The Mariners are going to have to go on a run, and a lot of Cal Raleigh's MVP standing is going to be based off of Julio Rodriguez, which is the most interesting thing in the world, that almost none of Judge's standing in the MVP is based on any of his teammates. But Cal Raleigh's MVP standing will be based upon Julio Rodriguez doing better, and Jorge Polanco doing better, Rosarena doing better. If these guys start picking up their part, and if Cal Raleigh stays exactly where he's at, Cal Raleigh might win this MVP, where Judge's MVP status has nothing to do with his teammates, which is really interesting. It's almost Judge and then everybody else, and it's Cal Raleigh and the Mariners. Makes it a very interesting argument.
And I got to be honest, we discussed this a little bit yesterday over the phone. I am worried about Julio. You mentioned him and how much of an impact he's going to have on Cal Raleigh and the rest of that team. But I am worried about Julio. I'm going to give you some numbers here and take a listen to this. His batting average, first year in the league, 284, then to 275, 273, 252 now. Slugging from 509 to 408 has gone down every year. OPS from 853 to 721 has gone down every year. OPS plus from 147 to 110 has gone down every year. I am very worried about Julio. And I've got to be honest, if I am Seattle, because of how amazingly cheap his contract is and knowing that people will still be high on him, I would trade Julio right now and get the haul of a lifetime.
So Julio Rodriguez, home versus away just this season, right? Just 2025. 224 at home, 279 on the road. Slugging 353 at home, 461 on the road. OPS 645 to 800 on the road. This is telling me that Julio Rodriguez cannot hit in Seattle.
Yeah.
Cannot hit in Seattle. He did for 1 year, and then something changed. Something started getting addressed. He's hitting much better during night games. He's been hitting better on turf versus on grass, which means on the road, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the small sample size on that turf part, but that would be a very interesting selling point to other teams, saying he is so good on the road. You know what you're getting. Don't look at the home numbers, look at the road numbers, and you will get a different athlete than what we've seen, a better athlete, the Julio Rodriguez that you know and love. You will be getting him versus the one that is, playing for the Seattle Mariners.
I would go absolutely crazy, tears of joy, if the Mets could pry away Julio Rodriguez from the Seattle Mariners.
He's got 10 more RBIs on the road than he does at home.
Yeah, this is
basically 10 more RBIs, and it's only 16 to 25. So there's an athlete there wanting to break out, and it's not in Seattle. So I at some point it's either in your head or it's in Seattle. Maybe Cal Raleigh being a lefty is a big difference there, and lefties are see better. Again, that Seattle, that stadium, the center field wall is not straight. It's not straight with the batter. It's angled a little bit. There might be something different. I'll have to look to see if they've changed it since I was there, but it was never flat to the hitter. It was angled.
Yeah, it's still angled right now. So you, Mr. Mariner, Mr. former closer of Seattle Mariners, would you trade Julio?
No.
No? Okay.
No. I sit there and I make every change I can in my stadium because I'm seeing the athlete. We're not losing the athlete. The stadium is causing something different for him. I would go out there and I would put up tarps. During the moment the season is over with on September whatever, or October, whatever, if they're not in the playoffs, I would go out there and I would have major different things and have pitchers throwing off of him. I would have high-speed cameras. I would be censoring everything, trying to pick up something that gives it more evenness to my hitters. I've got great pitching staff, and I think they're really great because of that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to better our hitting. It's so bad at home and so good on the road that I think I can be a much better team than what I'm giving up if I make that advantage even.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but the problem is they've known this for a couple of years and Seattle hasn't done anything to change the stadium. So if you're not going to change the stadium and you have a player that can't hit there, I got to trade him. But if you decide that you're going to make those changes, you're going to change the stadium, then keep him. I would love to keep Julio for his whole career over there, especially with how cheap he is. But if he's going to flounder, you can get a lot back for him.
I think you're going to. I think it's been screaming, and that big article came out right before the start of the season, and you're seeing such a disparity in statistics. Now people are putting such a highlight on it. We've known something's up with Seattle. I think now there's no excuse to start making some major changes.
And by the way, if you're like me and you're in the baseball card collecting world, go out there and get Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez cards because Julio's cheap. And some people are still sleeping on Cal, although his cards have gone up a lot recently. So I really do think that Seattle has all the talent in the world. I think that Cal has a very good chance at the AL MVP. I'd like to see it, but they have to win the division, in my opinion, to make that happen. Now, if you want to be a winning player, just like Cal Raleigh, just like Julio Rodriguez, where's the only place to go, David Ardsma?
Top Velocity Pro.
Top Velocity Pro, your one-stop shop for everything baseball and baseball tutelage, from the man they call Mick Gorgeous, the man they call Mr. 69, the man David Ardsma, who's going to be starting a separate political show with his wife called TNT soon.
Top Velocity Pro, where we can make you the best thrower you ever possibly can be, the best athlete for yourself. We look at from every single angle, the analytics camera, high-speed camera, everything, and we build you to be an incredible athlete. Top Velocity Pro if you want to better yourself.
I mean, there's a reason you have a 15-year-old who's on the golf course right now. There's a reason why you have one of the best under 12 players in the country, Mr. J.D. Ardsma. Hey, I'm propping up my freaking client. I don't want to hear you saying anything. I've got to start building up his draft stock now so that I can get that big signing bonus when he signs, okay? So,
yes.
Shut up, David. All right. Up next, I want to talk about my favorite team. And we talk about the Mets quite a bit because I am a New Yorker, even though I try to avoid it like the plague. But the New York Mets are 2-8 in their last 10 games. They were floundering up until last night. They have had a crazy streak of injuries, and now they're actually in second place, right behind Philadelphia, who I picked to win the division anyway. What do you think of this whole situation with the Mets? And is it a bad thing that they've gone on this losing streak now?
So really, the Mets, nothing's really going right for them right now, and especially in the last 7 games.
Except for Juan Soto, who is playing like an MVP again.
Except for Juan Soto, who's starting to pick it up, which I don't think has anything to do with like the streak or what's happening in these last 7 games. But they have the 4th worst ERA in these last 7 games. And from a hitting standpoint, they're actually doing well, right? So a lot of that has to do with Juan Soto. They have the 11th best or OPS in the last 7 games. So yes, they are not playing good in their last 10 or so. But these little runs and these little streaks, I will always say this. I'll say this till I'm dead. Is I truly believe these are good things for teams. I like these moments when you're sitting there and you're playing Tampa Bay and you get swept by Tampa Bay. You go to Atlanta, get swept by Atlanta. You win 1 of 3 against Philly, and then you go and you lose your first 2 against Atlanta again, and then you win. I like these streaks. I like them because these are the streaks that make you work harder. These are the streaks that make you a more complete team. Every good team in baseball has moments like this where they start floundering. They start to lose. They start to lose to the wrong teams. and then they build out of it, because that's what you have to do as a team. You have to have a rally point. And if you're just winning games and everything's fun and great all season long, you never had that moment of adversity. And right now is that moment for the Mets, where they've lost games. They're getting down into second place. They're having injuries on that pitching staff. They've got Manaea, who's been out obviously all year. McGill, who just got hurt with a sprained elbow, and so we're going to see where that goes. Senga, the hamstring issue, and so you've got major pitchers on your starting staff going down. So this is that adversity moment. This is that chance for them to take these injuries and everything going on, especially on that pitching side, and rally behind it and keep going, because they've had great spots in their rotation. Like Montas coming back and pitching really well, and that first outing is obviously going to keep them going. David Peterson has been pitching well overall these last couple outings, not so great. But then they've had Clay Holmes obviously having a wonderful season and pitching well overall. So I need them to have moments like this to become a better team.
And quite frankly, it exposes your weaknesses. You looked at this Mets lineup and okay, my top three is among the best three in baseball when I have Lindor and Soto and Alonso. But then when you saw that Vientos isn't doing well, Beatty isn't doing well, you got a lot of guys in that lineup not doing well. When you're losing, those get highlighted. And now David Stearns, the GM of the Mets, has to say, hey, wait a minute, I might need some guys at the bottom of the lineup because who I have is just not cutting it. I am not a fan of Nimmo. I haven't been a fan of Nimmo for a long time. I am not a fan of, who's our second baseman outfielder? McNeil, thank you. Wow, mental fart there. I'm not a fan of McNeil. I think once he started playing golf, it destroyed his baseball swing. And I never thought he was all that great anyway. To me, he's a poor man's Arias, where, yeah, he can have a high average, but he doesn't even do that anymore. He doesn't hit crazy amount of bombs. He's not speedster. So what do I need him for? Marte is getting old. Tyrone Taylor, fantastic in center field defensively, but not a great hitter. And Alvarez who is no longer with the team because they sent him down, who is supposed to be a 25 home run catcher, has been god awful. That earlier when we were talking about Cal Raleigh, when you have a catcher that hits, oh my God, does that lengthen the lineup? And the Mets have usually had catchers who can hit. Gary Carter, Mike Piazza, you go through the list. I like the fact that it happened now because it's before the trade deadline and they get to figure out where are the items that I really need. And then, like you said, if you don't have any adversity throughout the season and you just coast into the playoffs, it's a little too easy and you don't know how to fight back when it's up against it. I remember a few years ago when Cleveland had that crazy run where they had, 21 wins in a row. They set the American League record. What did I say? Are they getting too hot at the wrong time? Because they were hot right before the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, when that ended, ice cold, done with the playoffs, gone, out.
Yeah, they weren't hot going into the playoffs. They were hot before it. And they were hot.
Yeah, it was like the 15 games before they cooled down.
Yes, and that's the worst thing you want to happen is have that adversity right when you get to right when you're walking into the playoffs. You want that adversity now. You want that adversity in July. You want that adversity, in some other spots where then you can come out of it. Even August is a great time for it, so that allows you to have the second half of August and September. You just don't want it to happen in August with a team right on your heels, and then you have that adversity hit. Right? So right now, it's basically exactly what we thought the NL East was going to be. The Mets and the Phillies with the Braves, when you're sitting back going like, where are the Braves? But it's the Mets and Phillies making a run, and both teams are playing good baseball overall. I've got no problem, but you've said a couple of things that were right on it too. Alvarez not doing his part without question. Soto now playing good baseball. Nimmo just 50 outside of 15 home runs. Okay, 250. But again, it's nothing that's going to blow your doors open. He's going to end the year with 30 home runs, which is going to be a good number for a corner outfield, but not great across the board, but good. But then you're looking at like Beatty's right now. And then you're
Yeah.
looking at Marte has been for a couple of years. McNeil, outside of that 1 year, has really kind of been and but they've kept bringing these guys back. I know Beatty's obviously a young player, but they kept bringing a bunch of guys back in McNeil, Marte, and some of these guys where you're sitting back going like, I need more. I need a little bit more. And that pitching staff had been a huge plus for them last year. Right now, in this moment, been struggling, but they'd picked up the slack the whole year. I'd like to see that offense pick it up and carry the pitching staff for a little bit while they're allowed to get healthy and get through this, because they do have an opportunity here. And I think you brought up another good point. This adversity allows them to see their flaws, see where they need players and where they can improve. And I would love to see David Stearns make a really good splash and not just a couple role players, because you've got a bottom part of this lineup that is really ho-hum versus the other teams, the other competition. When I look at the Dodgers, I look at the Cubs, and I want to look at the Phillies, and then on the National League side, so even the Padres, the bottom parts of their lineup are just better. And that's scary as a pitching staff when I'm facing bottom part of the lineup and those players are getting better. Like a Max Muncy right now, there's like they would die for a Max Muncy in this lineup.
You know who I'd like to see in this Mets lineup, and he's not going to cost too much. He's a very good player, underrated. I'd like to see Cedric Mullins on this team.
Yeah, and that's a player too. When you're looking over at Baltimore, that they probably want to move, that they probably would move, and that would be a very interesting spot. You'd take that Taylor spot. He's playing center field right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you take Taylor's spot, and that would be a very good place. And a player that wants to win, knows what it's like to win, has that fire and that hunger. Not saying that Taylor does not, but he's a known commodity that is going to bring a little spark, and that's a good type of move.
Yeah, and if you bring in Cedric Mullins and he's your 5-hole hitter, and then you're moving Nimmo down to 6, and you're moving McNeil down to 7, that lengthens the lineup, because Taylor, Terrens at the end of that lineup kills you. So you really need to bring in some more hitters. And at this point, I would much prefer if they started playing some of these young guys like Acuna more, rather than sending him down, than keeping a guy like McNeil or Marte. I wouldn't mind bringing up some of these young guys and cutting bait on those older players. Get yourself a little bit of energy.
I have a hard time cutting bait with some older players right now and just bringing up young guys, because the young guys probably going to, maybe some more energy, but they're not going to bring up better stats. And you never know what they have in that clubhouse, what type of guys are on the clubhouse, and they might be driving the team a lot more than you think. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to get rid of those guys at this point, especially when you're playing good baseball. But I do want to look at and say, can I improve? Can I use a guy that I sent down to the minors as a tool to bring up the player that I want that guy to become?
I'm not talking about all of them though, but you have so many ho-hum players.
Jeff McNeil's still at a 253, and it's still, if I bring up an Acuna, like that guy's not good enough to even make this lineup right now. So
I know, but it's a weak 253, David. I mean, he's not providing.
But is Acuna going to bring you a better 253?
No, but he'll bring. But I don't know what.
And it doesn't provide clubhouse anything.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know what he provides clubhouse wise. I mean, he's Hispanic, and they have a lot of Hispanic players in that clubhouse.
He's not Hispanic. He's changed. He's
Latin, whatever. I'm sorry. Okay, he's Latin, and there's a lot of Latin players in that clubhouse. You don't know what that chemistry, how that's going to affect chemistry. I'm not saying that it's going to make a big change, but when you have all these ho-hum players, I don't know what Acuna's ceiling is. I know what McNeil's ceiling is, and that's why I'm willing to make that change. I'm not saying get rid of Marte, Nimmo, and McNeil, but get rid of one or two of them and keep some of that. Keep Nimmo in there, but if you can get rid of Marte, who's a shell of what he was, and McNeil, and bring up some energy, I'm totally fine with that. And the last thing I want to say about the Mets, hey, Yankee fans, that you've been making fun of Soto all this time, where are you now? And how's Cody Bellinger doing, losers?
Oh, my God. Stop
Sorry,
it.
I had to.
I love it. I love it.
I've
But
been
at the
hearing it
same
too
time,
long.
it's a long season. We know Soto is going to be at this point. We don't even need to. You don't even need to talk crap, because to me, it's talking crap means you never truly trusted it, and it hurt your feelings.
As a Met fan, we never truly trust anything.
We knew where Soto was going to be. So to me, I'm looking at this going, well, yeah, he's getting a lot closer. He's not even aware the way he's playing right now. Yes, when that season plays out, he's going to be a 270, 280 hitter and be crushing baseballs. But now he's got 19 home runs. Like, he's always been right there.
Yeah.
It's just the Mets. If you have a bad couple games, they're going to highlight it. Bellinger is a whole nother question.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really, but the good thing about Soto slumping in the beginning of the season, his baseball card stock went down so much. I just bought a Juan Soto second-year autographed card limited to 100 for less than $70. That's awesome. That made me very happy. And you know where you can find great baseball cards? J&J Sports Cards. There's no other place. We're going to be posting a lot of really cool crap over there in the next few days. So make sure you go to eBay, check out our store, buy some stuff, because I'm thinking for David's next birthday, maybe buying him some hair plugs. I need the money. So go to J&J Sports Cards.
I don't want hair plugs.
You don't want hair plugs?
Nope, I'm good.
Is you look good bald, and it really annoys me that people call you Mick Gorgeous, and I have this beautiful hair, and you're still the shining star in everybody's eyes. I'm hurt by this.
Oh.
Speaking of shining stars, let's move on to San Diego, Spanish for whale's vagina, where Fernando Tatis has filed a lawsuit. Why? I don't know. It's because he's a freaking idiot in the first place and shouldn't have done it. David, tell everybody this story. We talked about this years ago when he signed that extension.
So Fernando Tatis Jr., when he was 17 years old, signed a deal with Big League Advance. So this is a company that will give you money up front for a portion of your contract. I believe it was in exchange. They gave him $2 million up front in exchange for 10% of his future earnings.
Yep.
Then he signed a $340 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
I know a good number of players that did this, right? This was the big deal going around. This is a bunch of guys were doing this stuff. Some big prospects. Obviously, Tatis was a huge prospect.
Yep.
At 17. You never know how that's going to work out, but still a big prospect. These were the dumbest things I'd ever seen. And the big thing that we talked about this when it happened, the hell are you needing it for?
Yes.
Where in his life and his father's life and baseball life did things go so wrong that you are willing to stake 10% of your future earnings for $2 million when you don't need $2 million? Like, one, I'm not going to say this. I hate this. I hate everything about this. But it's not like your dad didn't have a nice major league career. It's not like your dad doesn't have money. And maybe he doesn't. But the $2 million wasn't going to, I mean, unless somehow he's been able to make $34 million at that point, I don't understand I never understood the reasoning behind it besides getting some money up front. But to me, like, the $2 million wasn't enough.
Let me answer this question from the outside looking in, and I have no background in this situation. I don't know Fernando Tatis. I don't know Fernando Tatis Jr. I don't know anything about this. But let me tell you what it looks like for me. He was a 17-year-old kid. He wanted to say, oh, look at me. I got the flash. I got the gold chains. I got the car, the whole nine. And somebody said, listen, I'll give you $20 million or whatever right now. No problem. You buy all that stuff. Just give me 10% later on. And he was stupid. And he took that money. But he didn't, like you said, he didn't need it. Now, I'm not saying that Fernando Tatis Sr. was, super well off. Like, he wasn't Griffey. He didn't make $150 million or whatever the case is. But the bottom line is Fernando Tatis Sr. could have said, no, you know what? You work for it. But I don't think Fernando Tatis Jr. was sitting there living in a shack in the Dominican Republic with 9 people living in one room like a lot of these other guys did. he was probably comfortable, even if his father wasn't treating him like Shedeur Sanders and giving him a Bentley while he was in college or when he was young. I'm sure he wasn't, in a position where he couldn't afford to have food on the table. He had a glove. A guy like Mariano Rivera, who grew up and in his back pocket had a piece of cardboard because that was his baseball glove. That's the kind of guy who's going to say, you know what, you're going to give me $2 million. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But Fernando Tatis, that you knew that he's going to be able to live a decent life no matter what, taking that money is pure stupidity. And he does not deserve to win this lawsuit because he's being greedy. And if he didn't make the majors, was he going to give that money back?
No.
Exactly. So this is the most frivolous lawsuit in the history of the world. And you telling me you're taking advantage of young, impoverished people? I don't believe that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know you're looking at it like it's a predatory loan, but they're not saying you have to pay back that money. This company is making a huge, huge commitment and and has a huge risk if they're shelling out money, not knowing if these guys will make it.
Yeah, they're putting out a big risk without a doubt. I'm still trying to remember. So he was signed in 2015 by the Chicago White Sox. I'm trying to look right now what he signed for out of the Dominican. That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but and here's the
okay. So he signed for $825,000.
Okay.
At 16 years old, $825,000
at 16.
So
before he got the money.
That's the one thing that blew my mind too. This had nothing to do with his dad's money, right? Like, I hate even bringing up daddy's money, but daddy's money gives you an opportunity in life that others don't have.
And so I'm sorry to interrupt. It also gives you an understanding of finance and a background in predatory loans.
Maybe.
This isn't. Yes. His father has seen this when he was playing. His father could have told him, "Hey, you're an idiot if you do this."
Well, his father was probably the one telling him to take it, and maybe his father is the one that we should be putting a giant highlight on, and saying, "Idiot." Just because you played good baseball and you made some money doesn't make you smart by any means. So, but the player had $825,000. Unless there was a very bad loan situation, unless there was a very bad financial situation at home, it doesn't make any sense to me. It still will never make sense. Now, things happen like that, right? Dad's in trouble, family's in trouble. You never know behind the scenes and go, we need $2 million right now today to even live for the next couple of years. So you go, okay, I will sacrifice future for now, but then you can't do what?
I'm sorry. $2 million so we can live for the next couple of years. I ain't making $2 million over the next couple of years.
Yeah, but there's nothing to do with it. So but the idea of it is that that $2 million pays off somebody else.
Right. Okay. I get it.
For dad's problems. Maybe dad is a huge gambling guy. Maybe, and this happens in the Dominican. This happens in Venezuela.
Blew it up his nose. Whatever.
No, like where people get people we don't know about it, but then people get taken,
kidnapped,
and get kidnapped. And this is a real thing down there. Not Dominican less than it is in Venezuela and Colombia and stuff. But this has happened to Major League Baseball players. Major League Baseball players have had to pay money to these people. These things happen, but we would have heard about it, I would imagine. But the dude had money.
Mm-hmm.
The dude could have he had any car he wanted, had a house down in Dominican, had his future already locked in. And he was a huge prospect, and we knew he was going to make the big leagues at some point, or at the very least, walk away with $825,000 as a prospect. None of this makes sense. And then, so when he's now suing him, the thing too was in 2017 when he signed it, he was praising it. He was talking about how great of a deal it was, how good it is. And again, that's probably pushing it to get other guys to do this. But you're just idiots.
Yeah, and again. I mentioned it before. That company, Big League Advance, was the one taking all the risk. What happens if, when Fernando Tatis got popped, the Padres voided his contract? Then Big League Advance would have been SOL anyway.
Yep.
Oh, you voided the contract? You're not making that money? Now I gave you $2 million and I'm not getting anything back. It's
Yeah.
For me, it's a very simple business proposition. And if you're going to sign paperwork, you have got to hold up your end of business. That's it. Bottom line. And don't tell me that, oh, I didn't know about these things. You knew about all these things. It's been around baseball, and your father was a ball player. You knew what it was. I'm sorry. You can't claim ignorance. You can't claim poverty. There's literally nothing you can say. And what pisses me off is that he filed it in California, and they have very liberal laws over there. And he's probably going to end up winning this lawsuit,
Well, you
unfortunately.
got to file in California. Got to do all that. But Big League Advance also sued another Padres player, Franmil Vargas, for past payments not paid back to them. So he still owes them $404,000 and $300,000 in interest as well. So these are serious contracts, and I don't think these players understood that these were serious contracts. They got it. They were told it. They had lawyers. Everybody is telling them these are serious things. I don't think they really get at the end of the day when they have to write a check for $34 million how serious that was. Yep. And Big League Advance probably also sat back and said, we need to lawyer up early and often, because these players, once they realize, are going to fight this tooth and nail. But they're just idiots. Like Tatis Jr., everything we have seen in his career, he's just an idiot.
Yeah.
He
really is.
These guys are smart just because they came from baseball families or anything, because they're good. They're just idiots.
We have mentioned a lot of things in this conversation, but the one person we haven't mentioned, and I can't believe that it didn't come to my thoughts, was, where's the agent in all of this? He had an agent. The agent doesn't know anything about these things. He's just sitting back and saying, yeah, Fernando, do what you want. I'm not going to take care of your business thoughts.
No, without a doubt. He did have an agent. He had people there. And these people were probably, I don't know where they're at, but they need to have to answer some of this. And these are the people that they need to be suing. Is where were the agents? If the agents weren't telling them no, the agents were telling them, this is a great deal, this is awesome, this is really good for you. That's where they need to be suing and saying, this advice is horrible. But I bet the agents were probably sitting there and either unaware or telling them no. And that's why they can't sue them.
What sucks? You just had the best part of the show, your most intelligent conversation, and your mic switched from your Shure mic to your computer mic, unfortunately. Isn't that the worst thing in the world when you have technical issues right when you're doing the perfect thing? Regardless, everybody heard it. Everybody knew what you were saying, and they loved it, and you're 100% right. Now,
I'm right. I'm 100% right, James.
Let's move on.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, that sounds much better. Let's move on to our final segment of the show, and it's only fitting that we were talking about Mr. Tatis in San Diego. We're going to look at the Mount Rushmore of the San Diego Padres. San Diego. This team, I've mentioned this on the show many times. The Padres have always been close to my heart because the first baseball player that I ever had the opportunity to book an interview with was the great Tony Gwynn, who I'm sure is on this list. But David, you get it started. Who's your number one?
Yeah, sure is on this list is definitely one of those things. And number one on this list, number one on a lot of people's list all time, Tony Gwynn of the San Diego Padres.
Tony Gwynn, one of the best hitters in the history of baseball. Look at him. Look at that boiler room that he's dealing with, that big old belly. Does it matter? Hell no, because the man could just flat out hit. And I will tell you this, out of everybody that I have met in my baseball career, sorry, David, Tony Gwynn was the nicest human being that I ever had the opportunity to talk to. I loved that man, and he passed away way too soon.
Way too soon. Obviously, Hall of Famer, 15-time All-Star, 7-time Silver Slugger, Roberto Clemente Award winner, 5 times Gold Glover, 8-time batting champion, Long Beach Poly, San Diego State University, San Diego Padre for life. That's one thing I love about Tony Gwynn is you never saw him in another uniform. Career ended life ended way too early. Career ended. He probably could have kept going. I think he was a little hurt at the very end of his career, but he was always involved in every MVP conversation, never really was able to get over that hump. I think a lot of that had to do with that he was a kind of one-trick pony, right? Got on base, batting average, just got on base, batting average. It was absolutely incredible what he was able to do. And maybe in our generation, I would say for sure in our generation, never a better pure hitter who understand hitting as well as he did.
Yeah, and what kills me is that 94 strike, he probably would have finished at above 400 for the first time since Mr. Ted Williams did it. And if David and I could sit here all day and give you some of the most amazing stats about Tony Gwynn, like what he has done against Hall of Famers. He had a higher batting average in his career against Hall of Fame pitchers than he did a non-Hall of Fame pitchers. That's insane to me. The amount of strikeouts that he had against Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, and Pedro was like less than 20. So if you're a baseball fan like we are, go and look up some of those amazing Tony Gwynn stats. You will just fall flat on your face and just be shocked by how good this man was and does not get the credit that he deserves in the history of baseball.
And this wasn't long ago. It's not like there was this huge gap. It wasn't, a long time ago when baseball was so different. This was steroid era. And don't forget, steroid era involved pitchers too. And he was able to even all of that out, 3,100 hits, 338 batting average. You talked about that 94 season, ended at a 394 batting average and almost 450, over 450 on base percentage. More strikeouts, half as many strikeouts as he had walks. There's just things, yes, and James said it, do that one thing where look at crazy Tony Gwynn stats and it'll blow you away.
All right. I'm going to ask you a really wild question right now, and I know your answer, but I'm going to make you think. If you had to get a hit, just one hit, you bring it in Gwynn or you bring it in Bonds?
Not on base.
Just to get a hit, I need
can't be a walk
or a walk, whatever, because both of them do this.
Walk.
It's bottom of the ninth. Tie game. You have the best pitcher in the game on the mound, whoever you consider at that time. I would probably say Pedro or Randy Johnson at the time, but let's say the best player in baseball. And it was a tie game, bottom of the ninth, nobody on base, but you needed to get on base. Who do you got?
So here's the thing. If let's say it's Randy Johnson, I'm taking Barry against Randy.
Okay.
If it's anybody else, I'm taking Tony. And the only thing is, when Randy Johnson's on that mound, Barry Bonds is going to get about a half a centimeter away from that plate and say, good luck, fella. Good luck. And he will take that ball right in the elbow and stare at you all the way to first base. Tony Gwynn will try to work a hit. Tony Gwynn's a better hitter. Tony Gwynn's the best hitter I had ever seen. But that's the only caveat, is that big-ass lefty on that mound, and that lefty that's going to get about that far away from home plate, you are going to hit him. So it's going to happen. But Tony Gwynn is the answer, is the real answer.
Did you ever overlap with Tony? Did you ever face him?
I never faced Tony Gwynn.
Was he in the league still when you came up?
No, he had retired.
He had just retired, right? Man, that would have been awesome. Yeah. And
he retired. 2001 was his last year. 2004 was my first in the big leagues first year.
You know what I loved about Tony Gwynn, the final thing before we move on to the next guy? A lot of players who were great players have these big egos. That's what made them great in some cases. When Tony was the coach or the manager, whatever, at San Diego State, and we would bring him on our shows, and we'd ask him about Steven Strasburg, it was like Tony Gwynn was a beat writer. He didn't care about his career. He didn't care about anything else. It was all about Strasburg, and hearing about one of the best up-and-coming pitchers at the time from the greatest hitter of our generation was really cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool. All right, let's move on. Who's number 2 for you on this Mount Rushmore for San Diego?
Okay, so just like with what are some of the other teams, the Marlins and the Angels, Rays, when we get there, this list gets thin really quick.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against, it's just the Padres haven't had the history of just dudes being a Padre for a long time. That's really the thing that stopped them, is guys just being Padres for a long time. My number 2 on this list is a guy that didn't spend a whole giant majority of his career there. He spent only 7 years. So that's where you get from one of the best Hall of Famers to only a 7-year player, Dave Winfield.
Dave Winfield, probably the favorite player of George Steinbrenner. If you don't know what we're talking about, just look it up, guys. I mean, George Steinbrenner, after he signed Dave Winfield, hired private investigators to watch him. But Dave Winfield, really the prototype of Aaron Judge. Big.
I mean, 6'6", 220 beast.
Yeah. Just an absolute monster, was an amazing ball player. Probably doesn't get the love that he deserves, but a Hall of Famer without a doubt. I still think of him as a Yankee, though, but maybe that's just because of when I was born and when he became a Yankee. But he became a Padre, and I think he is the reason, from what I heard, he's the reason why players are not allowed to pick their caps anymore for Cooperstown.
Well, he was a Yankee longer than he was a Padre.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it. He was a Yankee longer than a Padre. He had some great years as a Padre. So overall, his stat in general, Dave Winfield, right? Hall of Famer, Roberto Clemente Award winner, 7-time Gold Glover, 12-time All-Star, 92 World Series champion, 6-time Silver Slugger. But as a Padre, he had 284, 154 home runs, 626 RBIs. He represented the Padres 4 All-Star games, 2 Gold Gloves. Then he left as that free agent in 1981, which is a huge deal, landmark deal for free agency at the time. San Diego retired his number, but he was an absolute hoss for the Padres, and just a giant of a man, right fielder, and a huge part of the MLBPA now. So get some love out there for that. But if he would have stayed a Padre, he would have been a Hall of Famer as a Padre. I wish he would have. That would have been special, but again, it added more lore and stuff to his career by going to the Yankees.
Yep.
And a lot more headaches.
Yeah, you got that right. I'm actually surprised that he was your number 2. So let's move on to your number 3.
So number 3 is actually one of my heroes growing up watching him. I would say, okay, I do got to mention this. There's Tony Gwynn, and then this guy, and then Dave Winfield.
Okay.
Again, the it isn't in order necessarily of like the best. It usually ends up that way, but this dude was just the dude. And when you're talking about the Padres of the 90s, 2000s, he is it. Trevor Hoffman.
The Hoff. And we're not talking about the guy with the stupid little black car. We're talking about the flamethrower on the mound who would just shut everybody down. The second best closer that I've seen. Well, that's tough. Is he the second best closer that you've seen in baseball?
He's the second best closer all time. That picture is definitely not Trevor Hoffman, but he is the second best. I would say this. There we go. Yeah.
There's the Hoff.
The Hoff, just a different mean look on his face. I would say the second best closer all time, but I also say this. I do feel, and I might be crazy here when I say this, I do feel like a lot of it was I just you didn't realize how good he was because he was a Padre. And a lot of times the teams weren't all that great. The teams were okay at times. And again, they had a good run in that 90s. They had some good, really good teams, but nothing that just stands out. It's like, oh my God, that Padres team. If he was in a different place, I think he'd be looked upon a lot much differently than Mariano and then other guys. I think you would have a conversation. If he was in New York, you'd say Mariano and Trevor Hoffman are the greatest 2 closers of all time. He'd be in every single conversation. Let's not forget he had more saves than Mariano.
Yes.
He had more saves. He had the most saves all time for a while, too. Well, for a little bit.
Listen, Hoff, great closer. Don't know him as a human being. I've never spoken to him. Have you?
Yes.
Good dude?
Awesome.
I have a question, though. I'm going to throw another relief pitcher at you, and you tell me who you'd rather have on the mound, then it's not Mariano. Need to close out one game. Hoff or Wags? Billy Wagner.
Hoffman.
Really?
And if you would have asked me Eric Gagne in 2004, I would have said Eric Gagne.
Yes, he had the best season for a closer that I've ever seen.
The best 2 years a run I've ever seen. K-Rod was pretty dang good too. In a short period of time, Bobby Jenks was great too. And obviously, some of the new guys are having some incredible runs, but Hoffman over Billy.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, he had more saves.
Okay, more saves.
He did it more.
I think Billy was the better pitcher. Like, I think he was just a better pitcher than Hoff, but I'm not going to argue it. I mean, you're talking about, I think
he looked like a better pitcher overall because he punched more tickets.
Right.
Where Hoffman got outs and it wasn't pretty, right? It wasn't like it was that changeup, which is just ridiculous. I mean, 552 saves. He had a 2.76 career ERA, almost 1,000 innings, 7-time All-Star, 2-time Royd Relief Award winner. He's only 51 behind Mariano in career saves. It's the numbers don't lie to how good he was. I think there's things that jump out as Billy Wagner is better than Trevor Hoffman, but overall, the man on the mound did it for worse teams. He did better for worse teams, and that's where it really stands out. Is like he wasn't on these crazy, incredible teams. Billy Wagner was on some really, really, really good teams. And so he was going to get saves no matter what.
Right.
He did it in a different style. Trevor Hoffman was on bad teams and still put up the numbers.
What an amazing period in baseball history, though, during that time. Think about the closers that we had during that time. You had Mariano. You had Hoff. You had Billy. You had Papelbon, who was really good for a while there. You just had a lot of really great closers during that time. It seems like you don't have that as much anymore.
I think you do. You just don't. There's so many guys that are so good now. You don't think about it. Like there's a lot of really good closers right now. But
you think
Trevor Hoffman was number 5 in Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young, number 6 in Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young. Like those numbers don't. When you're that close, like think about if he would have had 2 of those Cy Young wins.
Oh God.
That's 2 Cy Young wins. That's 2 more than Mariano, right?
I'm sorry. I just lost my train of thought because I just got the stupidest message on our little group chat from our producer. Ever since Ards retired, no more good closers in the league. Alex, that is the dumbest statement I've ever seen. Strike it from the record. Continue, David.
So that's a thing with him. It's incredible. If he would have gotten one of those Cy Young awards, we'd be having a different conversation. I think a lot of times Billy Wagner went to New York. Billy Wagner did Atlanta. He was in Houston on some really damn good teams. If you would have been on any of these good teams or gotten one of those Cy Young awards, which he probably easily could have and should have,
or a championship,
then it changes everything about how we look at his career.
Fair point. It's funny. I always look at Trevor Hoffman and I think about Joe Nathan, maybe because they were both equally as effective during that same time frame. Both played in smaller markets and were underrated by the national press, but that's the comp that I always make. Joe Nathan, not as good as Trevor by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a guy who you should go back and look upon if you're a fan of closers like we are. And finally, the last player on your Mount Rushmore is...
This is a hard one for me because, again, I love picking guys from different generations, different times in teams' history to fill out a Mount Rushmore. I might be killed by some Padres fans, but Manny Machado.
Manny Machado, great ball player, really talented, and in some cases misunderstood. I was reading an article the other day, and they were talking to the Padres manager, and they were asking him about Manny Machado, and he was saying he's misunderstood. He comes off as a curmudgeon or not a good guy, but he's what?
Curmudgeon.
I can't use the same words all the time. He doesn't
You,
come off.
you do. That's the problem. That's the funny part. Is you used curmudgeon before.
Have I? I don't even remember.
It's
Anyhow,
awesome.
they were just saying how he's misunderstood, but his desire to win is so much that you get that surly attitude. And I kind of dig that about a guy like Manny Machado. You know what? If all you care about is winning, I was talking about this in softball the other day. I literally pick fights so I can get my adrenaline level up so I can throw harder and play better. Like, I do it on purpose. I bark. I yell at the umpire. I curse him out at times, but that's just the way I roll. So if Manny Machado, if you're the same way, if you need to be pissed off to play better, do it, brother. But you're a great player. Maybe a douche, but a good player.
Whenever we look at these stats are for before like the season and stuff. So the thing about Manny is outside of like the hits and average and stuff that Tony Gwynn has, he might have every stat like with the Padres. If he stays there for another 3-4 years, he might own every record for doubles, home runs, RBIs, all of those type of records. He might have all of those records by the time he's done, and he's only been there since 2019. And that's the thing. He's 275 average, 138 home runs, 431 RBIs, 122 doubles, 2 All-Star teams, Silver Slugger, brought him to the NLCS, and he wants to be a Padre. That's the beautiful part about it. He's done an incredible job there. Great defensive third baseman, one of the best in baseball, and he's having another great year, almost hitting 300 this year, 13 home runs. So there's a lot to love about what he's done there, what he's going to keep doing there. It's just, to me, is he going to stay a Padre? That's the only thing that's stopping it. I had a very tight choice between him and a player who actually is probably meant more over the course of their career with Jake Peavy. But I think Manny Machado is probably, is going to resonate to fans a lot more than Jake Peavy had as a Padre, even though Jake Peavy was probably their best pitcher overall, minus Trevor Hoffman over the course of their career. They just haven't really had anybody stay there long enough. So Manny Machado, even being there for just these, whatever, the 60 years so far, has left a more lasting impact. And then that bring me to, if we can talk about it, but Jake Peavy as my first man out. And Jake Peavy, while having a good career, and at times great, won the Cy Young, was 7th in MVP voting in 2007, had a 2.27 ERA in 2004, had points in his career where he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. For when he was on the mound, he just wasn't able to stay healthy and continued that success long enough. 152 wins over the course of his career. But I don't even know how many I'm looking at right now. He had a 3.29 ERA as a Padre. He only pitched, he started 212 games, 1,340 innings, 2-time All-Star ERA title, won that Cy Young award. He just didn't stay there long enough and wasn't healthy long enough to really have that, he was on the road to do it. It just wasn't able to break through. And while a very good pitcher over the course of his career and great for a couple seasons, I think Manny's already had more of an impact. Yeah.
And you look at Jake Peavy, a fine career, but what do you have? He had 7 seasons over there, like you mentioned. He had some great seasons, though. A 6.2 WAR in 2007. He led the league with 19 wins. He led the league with 2.54 ERA, 240 strikeouts. I mean, 9.7 strikeout per 9 when he won the Cy Young. Great pitcher, but just wasn't there long enough, like you said. Yep. But it's amazing to me that the best pitcher in the history of the Padres was a guy who only was there 7 years, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the Padres struggle, is just having these guys that have been that impactful over a long run. Yu Darvish too. Yu Darvish is going to fall into this same conversation where if he was there a little earlier in his career and lasted a little bit longer, like he would be one of these guys. And they just kind of deal those guys, and they haven't had that pitchers. They've had some incredible pitchers come in. They just haven't had them stay. And Jake Peavy, you know, matter of health and a big move to the White Sox, and Yu Darvish will be really interesting if he's able to stay healthy and keep pitching as a Padre. That's going to be a very interesting conversation.
Do we have to mention the guy on the outside looking in? I mean, we talked about him enough today. If you don't know who he is, you should be hit over the head with a tack hammer because you're a moron. It's Fernando Tatis.
Well, it's Fernando Tatis Jr. There's a very interesting, There's a very interesting conversation though here for Jackson Merrill. But the real thing is Tatis. I mean, he has him on in every facet of the game. I would be picking Tatis Jr. as being the guy that would probably be a 2-time All-Star already, Gold Glove winner, Platinum Glove winner, 2-time Silver Slugging award winner, has an opportunity to be just a superstar if he just keeps his, I don't know, veins clean. I don't know how you would say that. But Rookie of the Year number 3, MVP number 4, MVP number 3, MVP 14, even after the suspension coming back. This year having another solid year, maybe a little bit down from what they want, but having a very solid year, 15 home runs so far. Will probably end up in the 30s, 261 average, over 800 OPS. So there's great things. If he just continues that over the course of a year, it's going to end up being great.
Jackson Merrill, a fine player, but tools-wise, I think Tatis is in another stratosphere. I just think he's significantly better in every facet of the game. Maybe not significantly, because Jackson Merrill is an all-star caliber player. He could have a Hall of Fame type career, but Tatis just has every tool that you would want in a ball player. The only thing is what's between these ears. If he keeps that clear, then he's an all-time great.
You know, the thing too is Jackson Merrill, where he could make that leap on him, and is being a center fielder, being better defensively. He's already hitting 301 in his sophomore campaign, was number 2 in Rookie of the Year. It's just, I think across the board, when we would say who has a higher upside, it's Tatis. Who has a lower low side, it's Tatis. Jackson Merrill we kind of know who he is, and we know he's going to give you, and it's great. It's just he doesn't have that oomph to Tatis just has a little more oomph when you walk up there and go, oh man, like he could be a 40 home run hitter every single year and put up 300.
Yeah, just an incredible player. Could be an incredible player. With all that being said, we are done with the show as we know it. I do want to have a little 2-minute service announcement for you and me. I think it's something important that we tell the fans. There is a guy in baseball right now that I think, even though has had plenty of accolades, is super unappreciated, and I got to appreciate him even more this week as he kicked the living shit out of my Mets. And that's Ronald Acuna. If you're a baseball fan and you want to see a great player, just watch Ronald Acuna Jr., because this guy is freaking incredible. Don't sleep on him. There's a reason he's won an MVP already, and he's the only 40-70 man in baseball. I know a lot of people forgot about him because he was injured all of last year. And I look at, the baseball card hobby, and his cards plummeted, which I was so happy because I got to buy some stuff really cheap. But man, is that guy good. So if you want to watch a great player and you need a recommendation this week, it's Ronald Acuna, because that guy is just awesome.
Did I have Acuna as my comeback player of the year? No, I didn't. We didn't do comeback player of the year, did we?
No,
I had Soto as my MVP, but my AL Cy Young Award winner. I'm just saying, my AL Cy Young Award winning pick, Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, but there's one problem with it. He might not be with Texas to win the AL Cy Young if they trade him to somebody in the NL. But it's possible. He's pitching incredible. Look, we said it when you made that pick. If he's healthy, he's among the best pitchers of all time. Not even like best pitchers in the league. His best years, you can put him up there with Pedro and Koufax and those modern pitchers. He's that good. So you're not all that smart, Ards. Sorry to tell you. Your wife told me that yesterday when I was talking to her in the morning. Anyhow, I'm James. He's David. Talk to you next week, guys. Thanks so much.